Yes, sir. KJ tapping in. Let's go. Let's go, man. Let's get this one started, man. Let's get this one started, man. I'll give you all about 30 more seconds. Like I said, if you're in the chat, make sure to go to let me know. Also, if you have any questions regarding anything, specifically with the podcast topic, also want you to let me know. So go ahead and put that in the comments. We're gonna go ahead and get started here in a minute. Just give me 1 second. All right, let's go ahead and get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing episode 160, by the way. We're going to be discussing an interesting topic, nonetheless, because this is a topic that not enough people talk about. This is specifically why I want to talk about it more importantly. Topic is going to be your mind creates reality, right? Now, this is going to be one that a lot of people are going to view as very, very obvious, or maybe not, right? A few things I want to say before I go and get started. Make sure to go ahead and leave a follow for me on Twitch, as well as on TikTok and Rumble as well. It's all Life of a Champ podcast on all those platforms. Tap in with those for sure. Also, make sure to go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube shorts as well as my YouTube clips. If you can't catch a full podcast or for whatever reason don't want to catch it live or can't catch it live, that's going to be your best bet for sure if you still want to be consuming the content that I produce. But yeah, getting into today's episode, Jaden, appreciate for stopping by as well. KJ, like I said, appreciate for stopping by as well. Your mind creates reality. Now, I'm going to discuss something that I think is very, very interesting. This concept that recently came into my mind that, like I said, I don't see enough people talking about, but nonetheless, it is a true reality of the world that we live in right now. And sadly, a reality that's an interesting position for a lot of people because a lot of people need, with this episode, hopefully some time to self-reflect to see if they're actually in control of their own reality. So that is gonna be what we're discussing today. Just give me 1 second. All right, so I want to go to get started. I'm gonna mention this. I'm gonna mention this point because, like I said, it's so interesting just to hear this, and then I want to know you guys' takes on some of these things that I'm going ahead and saying today. So just to start it, right? Everything is a program, right? Just everything is a program, right? A programming of how the mind works, right? So let's just say the people that you're around, the environments that you're in, the new people that you will meet eventually, the opportunities and situations that you will find yourself within this life, right? The interactions, no matter how small or how big, you going on your phone, all these things are programming. What you watch on TV, the movies that you watch, all that. That is all programming of the mind, right? It's all hypnosis and it's all programming within the mind. Now, with this being said, some of these things are chosen, right? Some of these things are chosen. You you have a favorite sports team. You go ahead and watch that. You go ahead and accept the programming of your favorite sports team, right? Some of these things are chosen, right? And some of these things have been chosen. Think about that for a second. Some of these things have been chosen. Like I said, the example being your favorite sports team or the new show that you like to watch or the music you listen to, right? Some of these things are chosen, and some of these things have been chosen for us to consume. Now, you could take that for whatever you would like. What that personally means to me is if things have been chosen to strategically program us, they mean something. They're intentional. They have an agenda, right? That's the way that I see it, right? And that's the way that I see that statement, right? So I'm gonna repeat it one more time, right? Everything is a program. Some of these programmings are chosen by us, and some of these programmings have been chose for us. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? And then now you think about it, right? What are the programs that have been chosen for us? That's a good question. That is a good question. It'll be most of the things that you. I'll say this right. It'll be most of the things you don't exactly need in this life to survive, to have a great time within this existence. That's going to be the things that are probably chosen for us. Maybe something going on within society that's irrelevant to your actual life, but somehow, some way, some people still feel the need to get involved or take an affinity to something that has absolutely nothing to do with them at all, right? And like I said, sometimes for good reason, sometimes it's for a nonsense reason. I would say, unfortunately, most of the time it's probably for a nonsense reason. But yeah, there's going to be some things that have been chosen for us. Now, with that being said, the question that I always like to ask people to see if if these things are being chosen, or these things are things that you can control and you choose, right? The first question I ask just to see this, right, is do you ever consume something that's a waste of time or that isn't something that you perceive to care about, right? I would say most people would say yes. They go on social media, they see something, they're in the car, the radio's on, they're listening to music that they don't really care for, and little things like that. And with that being said, and then now I ask you the question, right? Do you believe that you're in control of your mind and the ways that you think and the thoughts that you have? Are you in control of your mind? You answer that question for yourself. And of course, a lot of people would say, oh, of course I'm in control of my mind. Because this is supposed to be the only thing we can control within this life is our mind. No matter what happens in our physical existence, what's in our mind should be something that is worth controlling or something that we should have the most control on, right? And I would say no. And I would say more than ever, unfortunately, we were living in a society where we are the least in control of our mind that we have ever been, but at the same time been in the most empowering position to have whatever programming we would like within our own mind, which I think is very, very interesting as well. In the land of opportunity to be able to think whatever you would like, we're still being controlled from the inside with thoughts that are not even ours, with our things that we don't even care about. Our minds are constantly filled with things that are irrelevant to our own existence. But nonetheless, society makes them feel like we need to care about these things or these things are of importance when in our reality, it doesn't affect us at all. We shouldn't even almost care at all. Right? So like I said, I asked you the question, how in control of you are you actually within your own mind? And with this being said, I hope with me saying these things, you become a little bit more strategic and intentional and conscious of the things that you go ahead and choose to be consumed with, because like I said in the very, very beginning, everything is a program. Everything programs us. Everything hypnotizes us, essentially, to be allured by it or to be consistently allured by it for a long period of time, right? And like I said, I would say a lot of people's focuses, unfortunately, aren't exactly tied to what is actually important within this life. So now you must reflect on your own life and say, is there certain things that maybe I'm consuming that I should have more control over? Or am I consuming things that are absolutely useless, that I don't like, that I don't even want to be consumed by? But nonetheless, if you're receiving something, that is your programming, right? So you might realize right now in your life that you might have programming that you didn't even ask for, that you don't even want, but yet it's still the programming that you have, right? And like I said, if you have any questions or maybe if I'm talking nonsense, I want you to go ahead and let me know in the comments. But yeah, are you in control of your mind or not? Is somebody else in control of your mind? And if you want to be more in control of your mind, what are the steps that you're going to need to go ahead and take in order to be actually in control of your mind, instead of just have this maybe even perception that was programmed within us to even convince us that we have our own thoughts, or we not even we have our own thoughts, but we choose our own programming, right? That we're in control of our mind. Maybe that itself is programming itself, right? A lot of questions to ask, a lot of answers to have as well. Music is the biggest one that most people don't realize or pay attention to. And that's exactly right, Jane. You're exactly right. So I'll give you a perfect example, right? And I said this for the longest time. This is why I personally do not listen to any sad music, nor do I want to be associated or identify with certain music that isn't exactly conducive to having a good and healthy lifestyle. That's number one. So for example, I'll give you another example, right? There's a song right now that is one of my favorite songs on Drake's new album, right? We'll use this for an example, right? But what I will say though is in that song, he says something that I don't resonate with, that I don't care to hear, that I don't think is good for my own personal programming. And now I will go out of my way to try to either correct that or not even listen to it at all, even though I do like it, which I find very, very interesting as well. So he says something like, "Oh, I want to die," right? And there's plenty of music, and I'm sure you've heard it, you watching this right now. There's plenty of music that exists. The Juice Worlds, the Little Peeps of the world. Um, I can go on and on with these certain types of artists that gives these certain type of messages within their own music. And of course, there's some people, that relate with that, that it truly resonates with them, and they feel somewhat of an attachment because that's something that they can relate to. Now, just because you can relate to it doesn't mean it's something worth relating to, right? Which I find very, very interesting as well. And with that being said, that's where you need to be more intentional. You need to be more conscious, and you need to be more cognizant of what you decide to go ahead and consume. Because, like I said, there's plenty of music that exists right now. And like I said, music is just one of the great examples of programming that is going to condition you to make certain decisions and influence you to make certain decisions for your own life. And you have an unconscious understanding of what's actually happening, what's actually taking place. The decisions that you make are simply because of the things that you've consumed, right? The things that you think are the reason the way that they are because of the things that you have consumed, that you've let into your mind, or maybe, like I had mentioned, have been chosen for us to go ahead and be programmed by, right? Like I said, if you guys have any questions or comments regarding anything that I'm mentioning on today's podcast, let me know in the comments. But yeah, no, I just find these things very, very interesting because, like I said, you must peel back these certain layers to truly get a good understanding and a good reference for the way that you are in this world right now, right? And what's actually happening. Because this, like I said, this is something that I've been very, very conscious of for a long, long time. Now, I might not have been able to put it into the exact words that I would like to go ahead and use years back, but now taking a step back and being a conscious observer within society, I begin to see these things time and time again, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, I've been able to see these things time and time again. And like I said, I don't see enough people talking about it. I have seen some people talk about it before, but quite frankly, like I said, I just don't see enough people that are that are truly giving this the attention that it truly deserves. Like I said, are you actually in control of your own mind? Everybody wants to think that they have somewhat control of their own mind, but because that's something that's, like I had mentioned before earlier on this podcast, that's something that we've been programmed to believe we actually have, or this is the only thing we actually have control over. So my thing is this: if that's the only thing we were supposed to have full control over, or control over to an extent, and some people right now, or maybe you even watching this, don't have control over your own mind, isn't that saying something? Isn't there something that's truly wrong, that we've truly been misguided and misled to believe, right? So with that being said, I want you to now begin to observe these certain things when you go on with your day-to-day life. Is this something that I'm choosing to be programmed by, or am I a victim of this programming that's placed upon me? You scrolling you scrolling on, let's just say, TikTok or Instagram, whatever. You keep scrolling. You don't actually have an intention besides just being stimulated, right? You're being programmed by the algorithm of Instagram. You're not, even though you think that you're, in control of what you see because you follow these certain people, so you're only going to see these certain things, when in reality it still doesn't matter. That's the interesting part. They give you this false perception of you actually having control of the programming that you go ahead and consume for yourself. When in reality, like I said, do you actually have control over that? And yeah, like Jaden mentioned, you are what you think. So what are you thinking about, right? What is being placed within your mind? Because it may not be what you think needs to be placed within your mind, but yet it's still happening. So like I said, for example, right? There's a lot of things that I've seen that are going to be the inputs of people. When I say inputs, this is a concept that I got from this book called Think and Grow Rich. If there's any book that I would recommend for you to go ahead and read, and it's not going to take that long, that would be the perfect book for sure. Within this book, it understands thoughts, it understands inputs, and the way that you get thoughts is by getting inputs. Inputs is basically anything that you can be programmed by. So let's just say, like I mentioned, inputs can be music, inputs can be conversation, inputs can be friends, family, social media. All these things are inputs. These are things that we input within our own programming, right? And with these inputs, you can begin to see the positive aspects of these certain things and the positive results that they go ahead and reap, And you're also supposed to see the negatives. And that is something that I clearly highlighted within my life, and I move strategically to avoid some of these negative ways of being. Because, like I said, some of these things you truly cannot avoid, unfortunately. But you're in control a lot more than maybe what you think right now. Maybe you've heard what I've said in the past few minutes, and you believe you have the least amount of control that you've ever had on your mind ever. But now I want you to take back some of that control, right? And the second that you're able to take back some of that control by being a little bit more conscious and being a little bit more intentional with what you go ahead and consume, you can now properly put yourself in a state of mind where you can truly alter and influence your reality in your favor. And that's what I want to talk about for today's episode, right? You can switch these things so the odds are in your favor. You can implement certain things, you could take away certain things, and that's going to reap you the result of your life. That is going to be the outcome of your life, right? You switching up or getting rid of certain inputs is going to tell you how far you're truly going to go within this life. And of course, there's some people that they have a lot of good inputs, but they don't have a lot of good outputs. And that's just the way it is, right? You don't want to be like those people. So obviously there's going to be steps that I'll be talking about in today's episode that are going to get you within the right state of mind to be a person who thrives within the society, right? I'm gonna give you a few things that I have been thankful enough to have been an observer of within my own personal life and within the lives of others that I've seen that have helped me be in the position that I'm in right now, which is right now in front of you listening to me, right? So, like I said, this is going to be the second part of the episode. If you have any questions regarding anything that I mentioned already so far, whether you're watching this or watching this live, I want you to go and let me know in the comments. But that was the first part. I'm going to move on to the second part right now. All right. Getting into the second part of this episode, right? Like I said, you can shape the inputs that you have, and that's going to shape the way that your life is going to be lived and the results that will be within your own life, right? And if you truly want to be successful, and if you're watching this right now, hopefully you want to be successful within your own capacity of your life, right? If you do want to be successful, it truly all starts within. It starts within. It starts within your own mind, within your own thoughts, being in control of those certain things, avoiding yourself from certain things, and believing, obviously, having faith and believing within yourself is obviously going to be things that are obviously going to be internal, like I said, within your own mind. But before you're able to truly have anything in the present moment, you must manifest it into reality by believing it actually can be done, or you're actually going to do it, right? So like I said, your mind creates reality, right? But if you're not living the reality that you want, maybe your mind is not in the position that it needs to be in, right? So like I said, what can you do within your mind that's going to put you in a favorable, potentially successful position, which will, like I said, all start within the mind first, right? So there's going to be some mental things that you need to either get over or implement that you have not implemented right now, right? Same thing with me right now, right? There are certain things that I need to implement within my mind, certain things I need to get rid of in order to get to the place that I want to be. But like I said, it all starts within the mind. And let's just say, for example, you're the outlier, that where your mind isn't developed, but you still have some type of actual success, right? You're not going to be able to maintain it or take it as far properly without it actually being within your mind first. So like I said, there's some people that do get lucky. They do get lucky within this life and they do get an abundance of money. But those same type of people have some of the biggest character flaws when it comes to maintaining money, when it comes to just being a productive human being. They have flaws, right? So like I said, in order to be successful within this life, you must be first successful within your mind, successful within controlling and implementing things that are going to be beneficial, right? And it's as simple as that. And then once you have your mind in the correct spot, now you must determine what is going to be ideal in terms of what you want to do within this life, right? What do you want to do that's going to put you in a position that you want to be in, right? What do you want to do, and what identity do you want to act like? Those two things are going to put you in a better position when it comes to being successful. So like I said, first it starts within the mind. Then when you can truly cultivate a mind that you believe is worth having, you can now begin to identify things like I had mentioned, what you want to do with this life, and the identity that you want to act like, the identity that you want to uphold within this life. Those are the next steps, man. Those are the next steps. And I feel like a lot of people right now, they're lacking that vision. They're lacking a type of clarity that could truly give them some relief within some of the problems that they have right now if they were just taking the time, giving themselves the inputs that they need to have in order to have the output that they're looking for within this life, right? So like I said, you get your mind right, you're going to eventually put yourself in a position where you're going to know exactly what life you want to live and the person that you want to be, which are two of the most important things that could ever be answered within this life, right? What you want to do in clear, concise, things that you can explain, right? And also the character that you want to be within doing this, the identity that you want to uphold and maintain, right? Once you're able to truly have a clear mind, those two things are going to come very, very easy, right? This is something that's, for me, I've been a lot more clear than most people I've ever had a conversation with, right? This is why I'm doing the thing that I'm doing right now that you're watching, right? It's because I was able to get my mind in a good spot to therefore clarify specifically what I want to do with this life, and more importantly, to clarify who I want to be while doing this certain thing within my life, right? So like I said, you ask yourself the question, is your mind even in the right spot? And if it's not in the right spot, you have some work to do. Let's just say your mind is in the right spot. Okay, what do you want to do and who do you want to be? Those are your next automatic two questions. Because like I said, it all starts within the mind, right? If you're able to cultivate it within the mind and curate this vision within your mind, you're going to be able to manifest it into the real world. It's hard to do. It's hard to manifest into the real world without that first work of working within the mind. It's very, very hard to do that. Let me read some of these comments and then I'll go ahead and continue. If you're always watching entertainment, you won't feel as motivated to get up and to be productive because that person isn't, but you're watching the self-improvement content, then you will. Exactly. And like I said, that is going to be part of the inputs, right? Part of the inputs that I knew very, very early on within my journey that were going to dictate whether I'm going to be a successful person or not. It's something that I've always observed within those successful people. Why are they different than everybody else? What things did they do differently? How do they see the world? How do they see it differently from other people who aren't successful or as successful, right? Asking and answering these questions are going to be very, very important. Like I said, it all depends on where you want to go with this life, but those questions were very, very important to me within my journey, right? And like I said, I decided to void myself from as much entertainment as I possibly could. Of course, things like watching sports is probably going to be one of my biggest vices when it comes to entertainment. But besides that, most of the content that I consume and that I consumed in the past were self-improvement content because I understood the smartest people and the most successful people did that same thing. They made that same move. That's what made them different. And not only were they able to, like I said, first see it within their own mind, they were able to clarify these two things like I had mentioned earlier. And also, they believed, which is another part which I'll get into right now. They believed that they were deserving of this, whatever it is, this life, this identity that they wanted to uphold. They brewed it within their mind. They clarified the person that they want to be and the thing that they want to do within this life, right? And then they seen themselves in the same light as this, right? It wasn't above them. It wasn't above them, which is another thing that I feel like a lot of people unconsciously do when it comes to the life that they want to go ahead and live, right? They put the life that they want above where they are right now. And of course, it has to be somewhat above you to an extent, but nonetheless, you must see yourself as deserving of this, whatever it is for you, this life that you want to live, and the person that you want to be, right? You cannot separate that. You cannot fully separate that from who you are right now, especially if that's what you want. And like I said, your mind creates reality. It's all going to happen within the mind, way before it happens within the real world. This is something that I've seen time and time again, right? Even for me to get in this position right now where I'm talking to a camera, where I'm confronting some of the biggest fears that I've ever had, right? It all happened within the mind first before I actually did it. View any successful person's um, career, right? It's all going to happen within the mind first, the work that you don't see, and then you see the result of it, and then you're questioning why they got the result. You're never going to be able to fully know because you weren't in the mind. You weren't created in the mind. You weren't there to witness what was created within the mind, right? That is what I'm personally more curious about, as opposed to all these um, external validation accessories, right? I'm more interested in what it took within the mind in order to get that. Because the more clear you can become with what inputs that person has, or how their mind actually works, or the things that worked for them, or the things they got rid of, right? I'm more attentive to those things because those things are going to eventually, with enough time of processing that and eliminating and implementing within my own life, I'm gonna eventually get to that spot anyways. But now, like I said, that route's gonna be a lot different for most people, right? You must be clear within your own self, right? With what you want to do, the person that you want to be, the things that you want to do within this life. But if you're able to start within the mind, those things come easy. Those things come a lot easier than trying to figure it out with your mind not being in a good spot, all right? But if you do have your mind in a good spot and you have done the things that I've already mentioned, right? You've seen yourself in the same light, or a deserving of these things, the person that you want to be, the things that you want to go ahead and do. From there, then you can devise a plan and a specific identity that's going to take you there. That's very, very important as well. Because here's the thing, there's no way you're going to get to where you want to go without somewhat of a plan. You're not going to just get there on accident. Most people don't get there on accident. That's just the way it is. They have somewhat of a plan, they have somewhat structure, they have somewhat of a guide. Now, what does that look like for you? You must devise this out within your own mind or within your own writing. But like I said, it's all going to come from the mind. That's why I'm saying your mind creates reality. That this is what I'm talking about. You must be able to devise a plan within the mind, given the things that I told you to already be clear about, or that you should already be clear about. The devising the plan is going to be an interesting thing. It's going to take its own amount of time with cultivating all these good inputs, right? What is the word I'm looking for? Compounding all these good inputs, right? You have years and years of compounding good inputs, which develop your mind to be healthy and to be learning of the things that it needs to be learned, right? From there, it's easily going to be able to come where you're going to be able to identify the type of person that you want to be and the things that you want to go ahead and do. You're going to easily be able to see yourself in the same light, and you're going to be easily and steadily devising the plan and the identity that's going to take you there. Right? Those things are going to become a lot more clear the further you are within this journey. And you right now, maybe you're not as clear as you would like to be. If years and years go by, hopefully you're going to become a lot more clear with what that looks like, and hopefully you're going to be taking the steps towards that as opposed to being away from that. And that's just what it is, right? And then from there, you act it out daily. You be patient and persistent, and then you will get whatever you would like. That's the way it is. That's the way the mind actually works. That's how the mind actually creates the reality. But like I said, I'm gonna go back to the beginning of this podcast. Are you even in control of your own mind? If you understand these things happen within the mind first before they manifest within reality, right? Is your mind even on your side? Or are you constantly consuming things that are going to work against you and work against your mind and work against the goals that you want to go ahead and achieve, or against the identity that you want to go ahead and uphold? I explain it as easily as that. Of course, it's not going to be as easy as I explain it. But nonetheless, these things hopefully should be within your mind when it comes to consuming anything, right? There's certain things that I refuse to consume because I know that it doesn't do anything for me. That doesn't better my life. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. Obviously, you should be your time and energy should be worth something within this life. And if you're consuming anything less than what you want to go ahead and consume, then you should be able to control that. That's just the way it is. Like I said, reality The reality that you want is going to first start within your own mind. But in order for it to even start within your own mind, you got to make sure you have the right inputs. You got to make sure you're consuming the right things and voiding yourself from the things that need to be voided. That's the only way you're going to get to where you want to go within this life. It literally is as simple as that. Like I said, I'm not saying it's easy to get through there. I'm not saying it's easy to get over the mental and internal struggle. That's not what I'm saying, of course. But nonetheless, it all is going to happen within your mind. How you cultivate and curate a very well refined mind is going to say a lot. Is going to say everything that it needs to say, and you're going to be the walking example of all these things, of the way your mind actually works. I would say, like I said, it's as simple as that. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's as simple as that. Your mind creates reality without being too intentional, right? Let's just say you observe right now that your mind's not exactly in the position that you want it to be in right now. What reality is it creating right now? Think about that. If you weren't intentional and you did the same exact thing, let's just say you heard what I had to say, you thought it was bullshit. I'm not gonna cancel out my shows. I'm not gonna stop playing video games. I'm not gonna stop doing this because I like doing it, right? Okay. Well, where's that gonna take your mind? Where's that gonna take your reality? If it's not gonna take you to where you want to go, then you need to change something. Like I said, a lot of people, unfortunately, are very, very stubborn within this life. Very stubborn within this life. Unwilling to adapt, unwilling to change, unwilling to be coachable. Those are the people that you want to stay farthest away from, because those people are not going to be shaping the life that you want to go ahead and live. You want to be surrounded by people who are open-minded, who are open to new experiences, and who have good within their mind, right? Like-minded almost, right? That's ideal. That's ideal to me. That's ideal to probably most people that watch this right now. But the question that you must ask yourself with the people that are around you, right? Are they in control of their minds? What percentage are they actually in control within their minds? Because like I said, I can't even say 100%. Most people are not going to be 100%. Most people are not going to be 90%. Most people are not even going to be 80% in actual control of their mind. Surround yourself with people who are actually in control, that you can tell, who have independent thought, who are able to steer away intentionally from the main news, or the main, who question the narrative that is being programmed to us, right? You want to surround yourself with people who question these things, who are not just so accepting to these things. Because in my opinion, here's the thing, the less questions you ask, the worse off you're going to be within this life. That's my own personal experience within literally anything. Asking questions about anything, right? If you're lacking asking questions, you're going to be lacking the answers, and if you're lacking the answers, then you're going to be lacking everything, literally everything at that point, because you're not going to have the answers. So, ask questions. That's all I had to say. That's all I have to say for that, right? Your mind's going to create reality, like I had mentioned. If you weren't intentional, like I said, you were turned off by the idea of me saying be an intentional person, right? What reality are you manifesting right now? You answer that question. If you're doing the same thing, you never did anything different. You heard what I had to say. You understood the potential utility that it could potentially bring to your life, but yet you still want to do the same things over and over again. That's fine, but just know you're never going to get where you want to actually go, because you're refusing the things that you know you need to go ahead and consume, or the ways in which you need to go ahead and be. Even though it might be a little bit hard or resistant at first, nonetheless, you still need to go ahead and make the decisions that's going to be best for your own life actually, and for the life and future that you want to go ahead and exist within. Or like I said, you're going to be living in a life. You're going to be in a state of mind where you're not even in control of your own mind. That's what it comes down to. Like I said, I'm gonna reiterate everything that I said for today's episode, and then I'm gonna go ahead and end it off. If you guys have any questions or comments regarding literally anything, make sure to go and leave in the comments. But yeah, early podcast. I know, like I said, some of these episodes in the future are going to be a little bit earlier. So definitely, if you appreciate the early episodes, let me know in the comments. But I'm gonna go over everything, and then I'm gonna go ahead and end it off. Appreciate everyone stopping by. Appreciate all the comments. So like I said, today's episode was Your Mind Creates Reality, right? Now, I'm not going to exactly give you the same type of narrative that most people, when it comes to this specific topic, are going to give you. Your mind's going to create reality, but I'm going to go about it in a different way. Realizing first that everything that you consume that are inputs, like I had mentioned, are your programming for life. All the good, the bad, the weird, the funny, the movies, the music, the people, the conversations, right? All those things are going to be programming. All those things are inputs, right? Some of these things are chosen. Some of these things you selectively choose. Like I said, the example that I used earlier. Oh, I like this certain sports team, so I'm going to be consciously, and like I said, most people don't say this, of course, it's all unconscious, but I'm going to say it because this is something that I think. I'm consciously giving up some of the programming to this specific team. That's the way it is. That's really what it is. My programming is going to be, of course, it's all unconscious, of course. My programming is going to be this specific team because I enjoy this and the feeling it gives me, right? Those things are chosen. Some of these things are chosen. And unfortunately, it's not everything. Not everything is chosen. We don't choose everything that's in our mind, unfortunately, right? Some of the things are chosen. And like I said before, some of these things have been chosen. They have been chosen for us to go ahead and consume. They've been curated and selected and carefully selected to be the programming that we consume. This is something that we don't have control over. These are things, like I had mentioned, like the car radio, for example, or the news that's on TV. These things that you can't really control. You constantly scrolling on social media. They give you the illusion that you're in control, when in reality you aren't fully in control of the programming that you go ahead and receive and you take in on a day-to-day basis. And the reason I know this is because I know that everything you consume on a day-to-day basis isn't some of it's probably going to be a waste of time. You're going to be able to see it and you're like, I don't care for this that much. Whether it's the news, like I said, maybe it's a certain song that comes on, you just don't care for it. But that's exactly what I mean by you not being in control of the programming that you have. There's going to be certain things that you have to I wouldn't say allow within your programming, but you can get rid of these certain things, but just be an observer of what it's actually doing to you, instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, no, I'm fully in control," even though you damn sure not, right? So yeah, the question I have for you: how control, how in control of your mind are you in actuality, right? And then you think to yourself, okay, how could I better my mind? How could I be more in control? You could be more in control by being more intentional, more conscious of what you consume. You're going to be able to be You're going to be able to take back your mind. You're going to be able to implement the programming that you want by, like I said, being intentional and being conscious. Being very, very, like I said, being hyper aware when it comes to this, because this is something that truly you need to be very, very hyper aware of in order to get ahead in this life. And like I had mentioned, if you want an ideal state of mind, you must curate it carefully. You must be very, very intentional with this ideal. You must be very, very clear with what this looks like. That's the only way you're going to be able to achieve it. Because if not, like I said, you're going to be living within a reality that isn't exactly the one that you want, but the one that you have to live in. If you're not in control of your mind, then you're not in control of your reality. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Most people aren't, so therefore, their life is the walking example of them not being in control of their reality. You're in control of your reality more than what you would think. Like I said, even more than I'm giving credit for. But you have to be careful. You have to be intentional. You have to be conscious of the things that you go ahead and consume. Like I mentioned before, your mind creates reality. If you want success, it's all going to start within the mind, and then it's going to manifest within the reality. If you don't have the right things that is being in your mind, if you're not surrounded by the right people, having the right conversations, learning the right things, then you're never going to be in the ideal state of mind that you would like to be in. But the second you're intentional with all these things, is the second that you're going to be in a better position than where you started. And like I said, You're going to be more in control of your mind. You're going to be able to manifest things into reality when you first know what you actually want, who you want to be, the life that you want to live. The second you can become clear with those things, the better off you're going to be within this life, because obviously you're going to have more time to go ahead and, actually be able to attain these certain things. And with that being said, you're going to be able to do what you want to do. That's going to put you in a position where you're going to be closer to the identity that you want to uphold and the person that you want to become, right? And then from there, you're going to be able to shape the identity, hopefully within your mind, like I said, shape the identity that you want to go ahead and uphold, and hopefully you stand by that identity, right? And then with all those things hopefully being very, very clear, you hopefully put yourself in a position where you believe that you deserve all of these things, that you see yourself in the same light as these things, that these things are not going to be above you, right? You accept these things as something that you might not have right now, but something that you will have, and something that you will, that is inevitable almost, right? Once you put yourself in that position, you're hopefully going to be able to be in a position where you're going to be able to devise a plan for these things to be actually manifested within your own reality, right? That's the real control that you have. The real control you have is that self-discipline, right? To say, hey, I'm gonna do this thing every single day or every single week. That is the true control of your mind, right? Like I mentioned, you devise a plan, be very, very clear with the plan, and then you go ahead and live it out. You live it out on a day-to-day basis. You stay patient and persistent until your mind is in a good position and your reality is in a good position. Because that's realistically all you can do at the end of the day, and the only thing that you should do. Are you, like I said, I'm going to ask you the question again. Are you living the reality that you want to live? And if the answer is no, then you're not in control of your mind as much as you know you need to be, obviously. So be more in control of your mind. First you must understand what things are being chosen for us, for our own programming, right? What are these things? Differentiate yourself from these things that have been a part of your and our programming, right? Be more intentional and make it so you're the only person that truly is programming your own mind as much as you possibly can. That's what I've done. That's what any person that is very, very successful has done. Be in control of your mind. That's all I have to say for today's episode. I'm going to go ahead and end it off. Appreciate you for stopping by. This is episode 160 of the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode, we discussed your mind creating reality. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments regarding anything that I have mentioned on today's episode, make sure and leave in the comments, whether you're watching this or watching this live. I appreciate any and every contribution. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and end it off. I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you outwork these motherfuckers, because you know that I am. There's no other choice, man. There's no other choice, right? That is the programming that I choose for myself in order to get to the positions that I need to get into within this life. Right? So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for today's episode. Like I said, make sure you go and leave a follow if you're not already following. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Leave a like on the video if you've got any good ideas, or if you got any good realizations from this episode. Definitely leave it in the comments for sure. But other than that, next podcast is going to be on Thursday, so tap in with that one for sure. If there's any people that you want to see back on the podcast that I've had in previous episodes, let me know in the comments. If there's any topics that you feel that I would do really, really good with when it comes to creating a podcast topic for, make sure and leave in the comments. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for today's episode. Like I say, I'll work these motherfuckers. You already know what time it is, man. Y'all have a good night, and until next podcast on Thursday.